GG's.
Wow. Shocking finish, guys. I love it. Coach Greg and the most exciting classic physique championship I've ever seen. And so this one go down in history. When the winner was announced, we all went crazy. We were screaming and rooting for the champion. And for this monumentous occasion, Chris Bumstead was on hand to pass the torch. And so in 5th place, Niall Darwin, the one-punch man. What an amazing physique. This man truly embraces what it is to have a classic physique. The smallest of waists, the wide shoulders, and the flaring thighs. And so he moved up about 5 positions from last year. And next year, I'm certain he's going to be fighting for the top 3. Niles just needs a little bit more conditioning and more muscle on his back, and he is going to be a favorite. And in 4th place, you guys know who got 4th. It had to be Jose. Jose, around 25 years of age, he brought the conditioning more than any man in this competition. A great-looking guy, had the bros bricked up as he began to pose in this competition. Now, personally, he doesn't quite have the classic looking physique, and by that I mean the really tiny looking waist. But he makes up for it with a shit ton of muscle. I'm talking about Dorian-esque looking back and peeled from head to toe. And frankly, he has no weaknesses on his physique. And so in placing 4th, well, it's all about the bones. Insert bones meat.
Based on the bones, we could tell that they were waking up at 7 a.m.
And so it then came down to the top 3. And on my predictions, I had Terrence Ruffin in 3rd. And many people said, what is wrong with you? What show were you watching? Terrence is by far the best. Now, in watching him go through his poses, I thought, this guy looks like a champion. If Terrence Ruffin were the champion, I'm sure everyone would say, yes, this is classic physique. He has the small waist. He has the wide shoulders. He has crazy looking definition. However, he's just a little bit shorter. Frankly, my opinion is he's losing because of his height. If he were 6'1" like C-Bum, how could you overlook this guy? He would be perhaps 240 pounds, but because he's around 5'4.5", he simply doesn't take as much space. And watching him pose, I do believe he possibly might be the world's best poser in classic physique. From one pose to the next, he does it with artistic beauty, with grace. He has a very pretty / beautiful looking physique. However, I still would want to see more striations. Like when you go through your poses, I still want to see the cross striations on the quads. I want to see the striations everywhere. And so, in my opinion, he's slightly lacking a little bit in comparison to the top 2. And so I feel like he had a very deserving 3rd place finish. I do believe that the majority of the judges are going to have him squarely in 3rd place, both in pre-judging and at finals. And then there were 2 amazing competitors. Mike Somerfeld, who in my opinion, he came back looking better at night. In comparison in the morning, to see him at night, I was thinking, I don't know if Ramon Dino can hold him off. As good as Ramon Dino was in the morning, of which I had him squarely in 1st place, I knew it was close. The way that Mike Somerfeld looked in the evening, I thought he might have done enough to defeat Ramon Dino. He went through his poses, he had the crispy looking glutes, he was peeled, he had significant amounts of size, and in comparison to the other competitors, I do believe that pound for pound, inch for inch, he had more muscle than anyone. And so if this was a bodybuilding competition, if it was the 212, if it was men's open, I'm giving it to Mike Somerfeld. And I don't even think it's close. I think that squarely based on bodybuilding, the way that bodybuilding is being judged, Mike deserves to win the competition, but remember, Chris Bumstead had to pass the torch to someone to carry the throne. And so, do we want to reward the champion to be the best bodybuilder or the best classic physique? Chris Bumstead doesn't have the typical bodybuilding physique. He looks classic. He looks a little bit different. a little bit more desirable to mainstream population. After all, he did have over 25 million followers. And he did that for a reason. And one of the reasons is because people love his physique that much. If you asked 1,000 people, would you rather look like C-Bum or look like the Open champion? They're picking C-Bum. And so who should they pass the torch to next? Should it be to Mike Somerfeld or Ramon Dino? I'm certain that the majority of people who are watching this right now are thinking, if I had to pick a physique, if I could look like one of those competitors, if I could look like one of those men, I pick Ramon Dino. Mike Somerfeld's amazing, and if I wanted to win a bodybuilding competition, I'm picking Mike. But if I just want to have an amazing look physique, one of which men and women would find desirable, I'm going with Ramon Dino. And so personally, I'm hoping that Ramon Dino wins it. In the past, Ramon Dino posing was a weakness. I kept saying, Ramon, elbows up. He seemed to have a great weakness in learning how to display his pose. Previously, he had faded in his tan. His tan was melting off him. This year, I felt he had the best tan, the best skin, the best look. And he really knew how to pose. He had a spin move. He was showing everything off. And so he outdid himself. Going into it, most of the world, including myself, predicted Mike Somerfeld had to be the favorite, that he would be the heir to the throne. Ramon Dino said, no, I am going to work. I don't care if it's the posing, the dieting, adding more muscle. I am going to be my all-time best. This is my year. If I can't win it this year, I'm never going to win it. And so every athlete, they came in at their best. And so let the best man win. And so when these two men were standing there, awaiting the $100,000 first prize trophy, they were holding their breaths, waiting in anticipation. You could see it in their faces. Which one of us is going to win? And so in first place, the announcement, the new Mr. Olympia Classic Physique champion. The announcement was Ramon Dino, and Ramon Dino exploded with joy, and so did the rest of the world. And so very excited to see Ramon Dino accepting the award and getting hugged, embraced by Chris Bumstead. And so what a moment. What an end, what a finale, what a great direction of the sport. People now know that classic physique, it's different than open bodybuilding. It's not just the best bodybuilder with the biggest biceps and the biggest back that's going to take home the title. They have to have a classic physique. It's different from open bodybuilding. And Mike Somerfeld, gracious in his defeat. He wasn't mad. He wasn't throwing a tantrum. He wasn't upset. He was happy for Ramon. And so Mike Somerfeld, an excellent second place finish, and most certainly he's going to be thinking, I can beat him next year. Ramon Dino, it took every ounce of his soul to get the first place finish. And Mike Somerfeld, he's just getting started. Ramon Dino been trying for 5 straight years to defeat C-Bum. And once C-Bum retired, Ramon Dino was able to be the heir to his throne. And so next year, look for a rematch between Ramon Dino and Mike Somerfeld. Sometimes it's an easier journey to the top than to remain on the top. And so Mike is going to be fighting harder than last time. And so perhaps all the athletes got on the Turk. They looked absolutely amazing. And so whichever athlete, in my view, gets on the Turk for next year is going to be the 2026 Olympia Classic Physique champion. And remember, if you're interested, you don't have to be a competitor. If you've hit a plateau, if you can't seem to make any improvements, code Greg, 15% off. Click the link in the description. Subscribe, click the bell button, comment to boost the algorithm, like the video if you liked it. Don't forget to watch one of those 2 bloops. And if you're interested in AlgoRx, click the link. Of course, you get enclomiphene, Cialis, tadalafil, you name it. If you're trying to diet, of course, the semaglutides, Ozempic, or terzipatide. For any of the cookbooks, the harder than last time supplements, all of this, code Greg, 15% off. What a show. And until next time, I am out.